we should ditch the rule of I'm measuring my happiness based on how people like me. Ditch
Yeah.
the rule and just go after the outcome of I'm going to be happy.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Be It Till You See It interview recap. Obviously, I'm Brad here today with a very special guest of ours who's stepping in for LL, Clare Solly, one of Lesley's best friends, who has been both a guest on the pod and been a recap host many times now. She's an author and actor. She's LL's slingshot friend, if you remember from episode 19. She lives in New York City and generally kicks ass and takes names. Clare, welcome back.
Thank you. The kicking ass list is very long these days. So I'm glad to be here. I'm so excited. I love this pod and, longtime listener. And I'm always delighted to jump in.
Well, thanks for doing that. Today, we're going to dig into the grounded conversation that LL had with Chriss Janssen in our last episode. If you have not yet listened to that, feel free to pause this today, right now. Go back, listen to that, then come back and join us. Honestly, it's an incredibly heartfelt episode. She comes across as so kind and thoughtful.
Yeah, I just want to get a blanket and snuggle in and listen to her talk.
Yeah, and I'm very intrigued by her book. I'm intrigued by her journey. It's worth going back, checking that out. But before we get started today, we got a couple things. Clare, why don't you tell us about today?
Well, felicitations, everyone. Officially, today is January 9th, and it's National Word Nerd Day, which, if you know me in person, I totally am a word nerd. We celebrate National Word Nerd Day by enthusing about our favorite words, which is magnanimous, and the importance of language in our culture. And whether you know what to say or always have a foot in your mouth, words are essential to success and progress. And Word Nerd Day gives us the opportunity to learn some new words. So go flip to a page in a dictionary and find a word you don't know and celebrate Word Nerd Day.
Yeah, I love that. I just typed, what new word should I learn today? And I have
What
a
did it
list.
come up with?
Okay, this is kind of funny. All right. Berate. This is Google's AI. Berate, beseech, bestow, cease, butthurt. Really? I didn't know that was formally a word. No, I thought it was two words.
Isn't it?
Apparently, it's one word.
There you go. Learn something new every day.
Humble brag. One word, apparently. I thought that was two words. Touch grass. That is two words. Come on, Google. Fail. Fail. That's hilarious. I'm all about words myself. I think my vocabulary grew dramatically because I was an avid reader when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. I just started listening to another book and I had to slow it down because the author is on another level of words. And our normal vernacular that we use all the time, I can listen to that on times 2, times 3 speed, and I can process the information, no problem. But I cannot
you live with
listen to this book
Lesley,
quickly.
so you have to process at high rate of speed.
But it's funny because I had to slow it down to 1.5, and I was like, man, it's been a long time since I've listened to a book this slow because he's using words that I have to think about before I can understand what he said. And then when you're trying to do that, you miss the next thing. I'm a big fan. I love it. I think reading will change all that. But before we get to Chriss Janssen, we got a couple amazing things. Here's what's coming up in the LL, the Brad future, and the dogs here. Although they don't get to join us for this first thing. We're going back to Cambodia in February.
Yay!
So yeah, I'm so excited. And just slip out a month, Lesley and I are going to hop on a plane. We're going to fly over there and prep everything for our upcoming retreat. We have an incredible group of amazing women coming with us and one good man. Actually, it's the son. So it's going to be a mom-son coming. Yeah, that's going to be really cool. And apparently he's a traveler as it is. So I think mom's very excited that the two of them are going to be able to share this trip together. But February is only, I think, 5 weeks away right now. There is still time to come if that's something you're interested in doing. I know it's a bit short for an international trip to the other side of the world. So we have just made the announcement that Cambodia in October is also going to be happening, but it's only being announced to people who are on the wait list. Since you're listening to this and you might not be on the wait list, I'm going to tell you how to find it. Go to crowsnestretreats.com, crowsnestretreats.com, and you will actually see all the information on there. We are running a special offer. So if you're curious about what that actually looks like, it will be on the October retreat. There is a window for that. So don't wait. Go check that out right now. As you heard us talk about through November and December, Lesley was in Los Angeles doing the accessories flashcard deck photo shoot. And man, it was a journey. We crashed with some friends that were like 5 minutes away from the studio. And Lesley spent an entire week busting up the guillotine. I mean, it was crazy. All the things. We had some amazing photo shoots there, and it was a lot of fun. And we can't wait to share those with you on the upcoming deck that's going to be coming out during this summer for the accessories flashcard deck. It's the last one of 6 decks. Go to opc.me/flashcard waitlist, opc.me/flashcard waitlist, and we'll give you the biggest hookup that we ever offer for people. Only the people on the waitlist get the hookup on this, and it's a nice discount. So make sure you do that now. This is my world here. If you are feeling stuck in your Pilates business, I can't wait to share with you 3 massive secrets that Lesley and I have learned after coaching more than 2,500 businesses, small businesses, just like you over the past 7 years, because Profitable Pilates just turned 7 this month. I can't even believe that.
Wow.
I am now offering a webinar. It's been amazing to share this information and to also just connect with additional Pilates business owners and fitness business owners. But if you're feeling stuck with your money, if you're feeling stuck with getting new clients, then come join me. This is a free webinar. Go to profit.biz/accelerator. That's profit without the O.biz/accelerator, and come join me for a free webinar. I'd love to meet you and see how we can support you in what you're trying to do. And then lastly, it's going to be Lesley's birthday at the end of this month. And as y'all know, we always make a big deal out of it at the end of January. So stay tuned, because there might just be something special happening over at OPC. Join the countdown. Go to opc.me/birthday, and you'll be the first to get the big reveal. That's opc.me/birthday. But first, and finally, before we get to Chriss Janssen, Claire, we had an audience question, and the audience was an audience of 1. It was the audience of Lesley. And she's like, I'm writing a question specifically for Claire to answer. So what are your goals, and do you set them for 2025?
You know, it's hysterical. It's hysterical that she asked this question of me. And I feel like she sort of set me up to say it, because for years, she and I have talked about, like, we don't make New Year's resolutions. We don't make goals.
Clearly she knew this.
We don't make resolutions, but we do, we have, I think for me, like, we used to say it was a goal, and now it's like a focus. I am trying to be more present in my life and just sit in my humanness and go, I'm here to live and to breathe and to experience and whatever. And I actually saw something at the very end of the year, and it was like, go get a jar, and at the end of every week, write on a piece of paper something good that happened to you this week. And then on New Year's Eve, at the end of the year, go through, or New Year's Day, go through and read all the things. I'm not good.
That's like the coolest advent calendar that isn't an advent calendar.
Right? I'm not necessarily good at doing like the weekly journal entries, or those ones where like you have a journal where you like write a sentence every day for 5 years. Like, I always think that it's a good idea. And then, a couple
but then
months
in practice, life's.
But I'm going to put this on, like, in my kitchen, so I see it every morning, or I'll make it my Sunday thing. I'll sit down and I'll write out like something good that happened. Like, I'll put it, maybe an alarm in my calendar or something.
That's what I was just gonna say. If it's not on my calendar, it does not happen. And then I use Hey Siri all the time, and she's gonna talk to me now because I just said that. Yep. I just say, remind me, and you can make a reminder in your phone. You can make it a weekly recurring thing.
Yeah.
And I believe with the new release on iOS, it actually just inserts it into your calendar as well.
Oh, that'll be, yeah. So yeah. I'm gonna try that. We'll see how it goes. You can have me back next January, and we'll talk about that.
Well, keep me posted. That's really cool, because what an awesome tool. And here's what's cool about that too. It doesn't have to just be like, okay, throw those ones out and start next year's, you could actually keep those. You could put those the way I'm imagining it, if you're putting them into a jar, then maybe they're on like a long, thin piece of paper.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
could eventually just put those into a book,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then that could become your journal 5 years from now. You got 5 years of those once a week. You got
Yeah.
250 of them. I mean, what an amazing way to celebrate life.
And it's funny too, because it's like there are some things we go through day to day that are, or week by week, that are little wins, or that feel like they were a gigantic thing this week.
Mhm.
But like you look back in hindsight and you're like, okay, great. I did that. Or you can't even remember when you did it. So I
Yeah.
don't know. So
I
I'm
just
gonna try this.
imagine passing that along years from now, like I'm thinking, what if my grandparents did that?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've got this weird window into like 1953,
Yeah.
that could be really cool. Anyway, I love it. I think that's a really clever idea. I think the more that
Celebrate
New,
little things.
I was going to say New Year's resolutions just
Oh,
get me annoyed. We are fighting perfectionism. And I think that
we-
the New Year's resolution sets us up for failure because if life's and something jacks up the week and you forgot to do the thing, what is the first inclination? Blame yourself. I fucked it up again. And instead of that, I feel like I like the guidelines or the goals, that aren't this like, I'm going to start exercising every day. I'm going to quit drinking for the month of January. I'm going to, whatever it is. I think when we set it as like this concrete thing, it ends up becoming just one more rule that we have to
Yeah.
live by.
I mean, I think it's a nice idea, especially for those of us in the northern hemisphere where it's very cold and it's winter. We have nothing else to do but to like focus on ourselves. But there's only so much navel. I
I
sound
was
nasal
like,
today.
how do we
Picking up
gaze
my
up
own
our
notes.
nasal?
Navel gazing that you can do before it becomes like you're just picking at a scab and you're that perfectionist still trying to chip away. And it's like, I am who I am at this point. And yes, there are things that could be tweaked, and there are ways I could be healthier, and there are ways that I could do better. But honestly, appreciating who I am now, and we always say meeting someone else where they are, but meeting myself where I am right now, like, let's go there. Let's have
Hey,
that
I love
be
that.
2025. So,
That's a good New Year's resolution. Let's meet ourselves where we are.
yeah.
I love it. Okay, stick around. We'll be right back, and we're going to get into Lesley's interview with Chriss Janssen. All right, now let's talk about Chriss Janssen. Chriss Janssen is a life coach and author who specializes in assisting high-achieving perfectionists in navigating performance pressure, overcoming self-sabotage, and rewriting personal narratives. Her second book, Grace Yourself: How to Show Up for the Sober Life You Want, offers practical tools and exercises to help individuals find meaning in life's uncomfortable events. Passionate about making transformation accessible, Chriss guides people through the process of personal growth, empowering them to achieve the life they desire. I love it.
It was a great podcast. Like, I took so much away from it. So this is gonna, buckle up, go back and listen to it again. Like, it was so good. One thing she said I really loved was high achieving perfectionists attach meaning to life to events and circumstances that are beyond our control.
Mm,
That, again, Lesley and I both claim to be recovering people pleasers and perfectionists. So the fact that, yes, we attach so much, we tried to go to the grocery store today, and instead we had to answer a phone call, or family dropped over, we just had holidays, right? So it's like so many unexpected things happen, and then arguments arise, conversations arise, and you weren't necessarily ready to handle those because it was the holidays and you just wanted to be like happy and live through all that. Or we just talked about goals and resolutions, right? You set out to have a goal and a resolution, and lifes, and you just can't stick with what
well, something gets in the way and it blocks that is out of your control. And I think one of the things that Lesley said during the interview was really relevant to the people that we get to coach. She said that, okay, cool. Now my next goal is I'm going to go out and get 4 new clients. And that's not in our control. We can certainly do all the things to put ourselves in a position to receive new clients and to connect with people, but we can't make the decision for them to actually be our client.
Yeah.
right? So if we're like, I didn't get 4 new clients, then you feel like a failure. But that shouldn't necessarily be the thing that, like what you can control is your messaging, the effort you're putting, getting it out there, putting yourself in the place where you're going to meet those people. You can control those things, but you can't control them being like, yes,
Yeah.
right?
You can control your output and your reaction, but that's all you can control. Other people rolling around this life are having their own journey and they have all their own lifing happenings.
Yeah.
I'm
And
stealing
timing is
that,
so
Brad,
much
by
a
the
part
way.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, steal it out, steal away. I don't know where that just happened on the pod at one point, but I don't remember the specific moment. But yeah, I think, there's a lot of shame and guilt associated with failure that isn't necessarily failure because we can't control those things. So anyway, it's one of those things that we don't actually put our finger on very often, where we're like, hey, wait a minute. I don't have the final say in the events that have unfolded here, but we still
Yeah.
blame ourselves for it. So I thought that was really profound too. I really dug when she was talking about that we make it impossibly difficult to succeed in getting what we want, yet tragically easy to fail at getting what we want. So think about that. We make it impossibly difficult to succeed, yet tragically easy to fail at getting what you want. And she said, yeah, let's talk about happiness. So the rule you set for yourself is to be happy. And the way that you determine your happiness is that people will like you. If people like you, then you're going to be happy,
Yeah.
right? So this goes straight back to what we were just talking about, where we don't have control over it, in that the validation that we're looking for, the validation that we're trying to what we've defined as success isn't available for us to lock down,
Yeah.
right? That's like setting ourselves up for failure, exactly like she's saying here. We make it tragically easy to fail. If that's our measuring stick for being happy, then we're really screwed. But it's
Yeah.
funny how often that we do that to ourselves. Chriss said something that I wanted her to say like 2 or 3 more times in a row. Just say it over and over again. We should ditch the rule of I'm measuring my happiness based on how people like me. Ditch
Yeah.
the rule and just go after the outcome of I'm going to be happy,
Yeah.
right? And that's going to allow us to get all those other things out of the way. I mean, this could be success, right? Like sales, I have to keep selling. This could be, again, clients. Our worthiness is determined based on the performance that we're doing or the people that we're helping. If that's our measuring stick, what happens after you've taught Pilates for 50 years and you can't teach anymore?
Yeah.
What does that mean for you at that point in your life? It's so interesting. This comes down to identity, and what we tie to how we define ourselves internally, and then something will change. What if there's an accident and you can't be doing the things that you're doing anymore? Or what if something comes through that changes?
Yeah. And sometimes we change. Sometimes we realize our dreams and our goals are not what we wanted to do. Lesley talks about this all the time.
Yeah.
And when I met her, she was going in a direction and her life changed and she realized she couldn't go in that direction anymore. And sometimes you can't base your happiness on that measuring stick, right? You have to be both flexible and focused at the same time, but the flexibility sometimes is more important and living life, seeing what rises up for you.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Stick around. We'll be right back. We're going to dig into those be it action items. All right. So finally, let's talk about those be it action items. Say it with me here. What bold,
Bold,
executable,
executable,
intrinsic,
intrinsic,
or targeted
targeted.
action items can we take away from Lesley's convo with Chriss Janssen? I'm going to jump right in here. She said, hey, stick to your commitments. Don't wait for motivation or inspiration. Commit to it, get in action, and just do it. There'll be seasons or days or times when we don't feel like showing up, but that's when we're going to show up anyway and stick to those commitments. So she's talking about sobriety, right? And one thing that I found was so powerful is she said, hey, the perspective needs to be flipped. It's not, oh my God, I have to be sober now. Instead, it's, oh, I get to be sober.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, wow, what an amazing way to look at it, because it gives you permission to be sober. In fact, it's a joy to be sober in that perspective. And when the challenge comes along of, oh, I wish I was drinking, or I want to have a drink right now. Now, instead of it being a negative, oh, I have to be fucking sober right now. Instead, it's a positive. No, I get to be sober. And that really will help you stick to your commitment.
Yeah.
So that was super powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I like that she mentioned focus on your commitments over your craving. So focus on what you want in life, focus on what you are trying to get and trying to get to, not necessarily that end goal, but what does today look like? And to tweak the tactics and not the goal. So how do I get from point A to B if I can't use the bridge? How do I drive from my house to the grocery store if I can't get to the bridge? Or how can I get from the job that I'm in now to being a Pilates instructor without sacrificing my entire life, again, or sobriety? Like, we have
Yeah.
many, many, many options here. Also, I just want to flag, I love that she has been not sober once, but twice. And I love when people come forward with these stories
Yeah.
that we as humans can just sit there in humanness and not necessarily have to live the life that she did, but understanding through her failure and then reading this book or hearing her talk, and just realize we don't have to go backwards. Just keep going for it. I like that she used the word grit too. Just keep pushing through and get to where you need to go. And whether that's you've experienced it yourself, you're listening to somebody else experience something parallel to what you're living in. I love that. And I love that she said something else too, that it's a small shift to get to where you need to be extraordinary. So just loved this. Loved it.
I like how these two things kind of go together. It's almost like yours is like the step before sticking to the commitment. If understanding the permission structure and the framing structure helps you stick to your commitments, then when that challenge comes along and you're focused on your craving, I want this thing, I need this thing, or my perfectionism, I have to have it perfectly correct. There is still a moment in there where you have to identify that you're in that moment. And that's when she says, hey, you have to focus on your commitments. And it's easier to focus on your commitments if you also understand why you're doing it. You mentioned that she was sober 2 times. When she got sober the first time, she said, well, it wasn't this rock bottom of like, oh my God, everything exploded. She said, I felt like I needed to do this. And I had kids coming. And that was enough of a catalyst to make it happen. But then 14 years later, when her kids were in their teens, she was like, I can't really remember why I got sober, because it wasn't this like explosive event in her world that blew everything up. And then when she decided to drink again, that's actually when things went down pretty hard.
Yeah.
And she said she did have a rock bottom. And fortunately, she, has someone in her life who was able to support her through that, her spouse. But she said, focusing on her why probably would have kept her from choosing to drink again in the 14 years later, because she had forgotten the sparkle of the why, that moment, I think that's also another amazing thing that will help you stick to your commitments, is focusing on your why. So
Yeah.
listen, y'all, we think you're amazing. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm Brad Crowell.
And I'm Clare Solly.
Thanks so much for joining. If you want to hear more from Clare, follow her at claresolly.com. That's ClareSolly.com. We're so grateful you're here. How are you going to use these tips in your life? Let us know by sending a DM to the pod on Instagram, or leave us a comment on YouTube, or just text us, and we will catch you in the next episode. And don't forget to be it till you see it.
Bye.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of the Bloom Podcast Network. If you want to leave us a message or a question that we might read on another episode, you can text us at +1 310 905 5534 or send a DM on Instagram at BeItPod.
It's written, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell.
It is transcribed, produced, and edited by the epic team at Disenyo.co.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to Melissa Solomon for creating our visuals.
Also to Angelina Herrico for adding all of our content to our website. And finally, to Meredith Root for keeping us all on point and on time.